Good morning, everybody, again. We're back with the continuation of your class. In the previous lecture, we did the definition of economics from Mr. Adam Smith, and we also studied the definition of welfare, which was given by Alfred Marshall, who said economics is study of mankind who is using the money to satisfy his needs. That was what we studied. So what were the basic features of the definition? You can write down. इस definition के main features क्या थे? First, economics is a social science. You can get certain questions, bachcha, in objective, that according to which definition economics is a social science. Your answer would be welfare definition. Economics is a social science. Second, it is a study of goods, but goods two types. Material also, which will give you money, and immaterial also, which will give you satisfaction. Material goods and immaterial goods. Material and immaterial goods. Material goods which will give money, and immaterial which will give you satisfaction. Third, he gives priority to mankind then to money. तो उनके लिए for Alfred Marshall primary is mankind. Primary is mankind. Secondary is money, or you can say wealth. In Adam Smith's definition, man was known as economic man, but now he is known as a social man. He wants to satisfy his social needs, social status with the help of money, right? But of course, the other economists who studied this definition, they also found certain other elements missing. So they wanted to add their elements into it. So when they wanted to add their elements into this definition, so of course, this definition will also be criticized by few, because they wanted certain elements to be added. They wanted that certain elements are missing in this definition, which makes this definition incomplete. So they criticized this definition. And one of them was Mr. Robbins. When he criticized his definition of Alfred Marshall, he gave the definition of scarcity. इनकी ऊपर तक जाती है roots. He gave the definition of scarcity. Who gave the definition of scarcity? Robbins. So this is how the definitions are evolved over time. So what was the viewpoint of Robbins? Robbins said that mankind wants to satisfy their needs for which they need money. I am okay with it. I am happy with what Alfred Marshall is saying. But of course, there are certain things which must be added. He said that there are items in this society which are scarce. Scarce means they are limited. He said the things are limited. That is, they are scarce. So when the things are scarce and things are limited, an individual with the given amount of money, Adam Smith, individual study, Alfred Marshall. Individual with the given amount of money has to decide about which product to be bought in which quantity. Because when the things are scarce, limited, and your needs are unlimited, your things have to be chosen. So he said, money is limited, but your needs are unlimited. So you have to divide your limited money into different needs. So you have to make a sorting, you have to make a planning, you have to make a decision. This is what he gave the points about, and he's right. This is the dilemma situation which the people are generally facing. So he was of the view that people have unlimited needs, but the resources are limited. इसको हम scarce भी बोलते हैं. Resources are limited, and these resources have alternative uses. For example, if I talk about money a person can have in a limited form, and his needs are unlimited. I want to buy a house, I want to buy a car. One need is satisfied, I want to buy the other one. So when the resources are limited, but with the money I can buy different things, this money has alternative uses. I can do this also, I can do that also. So this thing will create a bigger problem that is known as problem of choice. What to do, what not to do. क्या करूँ मैं, क्या ना करूँ, क्या लूँ, क्या ना लूँ. It will create a problem of choice. So this is the essence of definition of Mr. Robbins. His definition is this. You can write the definition. According to Robbins, economics is a science. Economics is a science which studies human behavior, as a relationship between ends and scarce needs, which have alternative uses. So if we take out the essence of the definition, study of human behavior, mankind पीछे से उठा लिया. Relationship between ends. Ends क्या है भाई? Ends मतलब needs, wants to be satisfied, जिनको हमने satisfy करना है, वो हो गए ends. And scarce means मतलब resources which are limited, and they have alternative uses. That's why it gives us a rise to problem of choice. Clear? So this was the definition given by Robbins. But of course, this definition was also criticized by the next individual because he said, जो scarcity की आप problem कह रहे हो, जो needs में आप scarcity resources की बात कर रहे हो, this is not applicable universally. There are certain individuals who have unlimited resources and they can buy anything. They don't need to choose. They can just put their finger and they can buy it. So it's not universally applicable. Plus, this definition is not applicable for developed nations. The nations which are already grown, which are already developed, their people already have the basic amenities of life. They already have the basic resources and their earnings are already reaching skies. So they don't have focus of problem of choice because they can afford it. So this definition was criticized on these grounds. This definition was criticized by Samuelson, by Mr. Samuelson and Keynes. They gave growth definition, the fourth last one. They said that the above definition is not applicable universally and in the developed nations. So he criticized it and gave a new definition. Growth. The last one. So basically, the last individual, Samuelson, combined the elements of all the economists together and put an extra element of growth into it, of future aspirations into it, and made economics the complete structure of what economics is today. So the definition of growth given by Mr. Samuelson is as follows. You can write it down. The growth definition. Economics is the study of how men and society choose with or without use of money to employ the scarce resources that would have alternative uses over various commodities. It focuses and analyzes the costs and benefits of improving the pattern or resource. इस डेफिनेशन में सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट यही है. The rest above part is the copied part of the previous definition. Study of mankind who is trying to use the resources of money which are limited or having alternative uses to choose which product to buy, which not to buy, which we have already done. But along with that, individual will analyze the expenses, the cost and the benefits of that particular resource so as to improve its utilization in future. So it will involve use allocation, means in which area you have to apply your resources which will give you the best results. So here we are trying to improvise, improve the use of resources among different choices to increase the benefit coming out of it. Means it talks about making the best choice. For example, I made a decision to buy a particular dress. I invested a lot of money. But then, from that I learned a lesson that if that dress would have been designed by a designer and I have purchased a material and got the things assembled and curated with them, I might have saved a little cost. So this is how I can improvise my buying and my money spending decisions. Clear? So this was all about the basic definitions of economics given by different authors: Adam Smith, money; Alfred Marshall, welfare; Robbins, scarcity; and the growth one given by the Samuelson and Keynes. Next, coming about the separate different structure of economics. Micro and macro. Nothing new, these terms must be aware with you all. Nothing new statement. Microeconomics and macro. Micro comes from the word small, like a microscope. Microscope is used to study small particles. So microeconomics studies the small particles of the economy. It talks about an individual. It talks about one firm. It talks about an industry. Single viewpoint, you get it? It talks about single viewpoint. For example, demand of Mr. A. This is microeconomics, right? But macroeconomics comes from the word macros, which means large or very big. It comes from the word micros, the Greek words. Micros means small, macros means large. So the macro economics talks about economy as a whole, talks about society at large, taking all the units all together. So it basically talks about aggregates, or you can say totals. तो यहाँ पर माइक्रो में विल टॉक अबाउट इंडिविजुअल प्राइसेस ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट, डिमांड, सप्लाई, प्राइस की बात हो जाएगी, उनके वेजेस की बात हो जाएगी, इनकम ऑफ इंडिविजुअल यूनिट्स. These all will be studying in microeconomics. But in macro, as we're talking about economy as a whole, so we will talk about aggregate demand and supply. We'll talk about national income, income of every individual taken together, income of my entire nation, income of my population. I will talk about total investment or total output. So whatever concepts will be studied here would be aggregations of all the individuals taken together. But whatever we will be studying micro, that would be individual units. Clear? So the scope of microeconomics is theory of output and employment on individual basis. Like demand, supply, cost, production, etc. But when we talk about scope of macro, it talks about aggregates. So this, when individual demands are taken together, it will form the aggregate demand. So aggregate demand and supply. वहाँ थी individual demand and supply, यहाँ पर aggregate. Here we will talk about markets. Here we will talk about equilibrium situations of the market. We'll talk about income of the nation, not an individual. So this is what scope of macroeconomics is, and the scope of micro is study of individual units. And scope of macro is society at large or economy as a whole, taken together. I hope everybody is clear till this point. You can go through it once, then we can proceed. Done? Great. Next question of the base of the economic structure comes is whether economics is a science or art. Next question is this: whether it's a science or it's an art. Now, bacha, before deciding economics is a science or art, we must know the difference between what a science is and what a art is. Science, art. When we talk about science, in science we talk about procedures. We talk about systematic knowledge. We talk about formulas, and basically everything is planned, pre-planned, systematically arranged and organized. Means it is something experimented on, and the things of science are theoretical in nature. We study the theory. In science, we come to know about what the scientific procedures are. But in art, we talk about its application. Let's take an example of a doctor. All the doctors must have studied the same scientific concepts. All the doctors must have studied the same science. But are all the doctors gaining the same reputation and fame in the health industry? No. That depends on the application of principles they have studied in science, the way they want. The way they apply the scientific principles, that creates their importance in the health industry. Every doctor is not the same. Every treatment is not the same. But science study must have been the same for all. So here is the difference. Art is application of the studied principles. How a person applies those things. So in economics, science हो गया totally theoretical. Everybody must have studied, but art is practical. In science, when doctors are studying, they're studying the concepts. But when they're in practice, they're applying the concepts, and the way they apply, that will create their value. Right? So, when we talk about economics, it is a combination of the two. Economics is science as well as art. Why economics is science? Because it has certain rules, regulations and scientific procedures. Economics is science because it is a systematic body of knowledge. We need to learn the concepts. It's a systematic study of body of knowledge. It has concepts. And it is as well as art. Because it involves system of application of that knowledge. I hope everybody is clear. Next question. Types of economies. Types of economics. Positive economics. And normative economics. Now, when we study economics, there are two concepts, positive and normative. When we talk about economics as positive one, positive economics is one which tells us what actually is. It will tell you the present or past situations. For example, due to pandemic, there is huge loss to industry. There is huge loss to business industry. So this is the situation going on, what is going on. But what should be? It is taught to us by normative economics. If, for example, if pandemic is controlled, lockdown should be lifted to improve the industry. So what should be done is given to us through normative economics. So normative economics gives us what ought to be or what should be. For example, if pandemic is controlled, lockdown should be lifted to improve the industry. It's a solution, right? So the positive economics just tells you about what is going on, but positive economics tells you about what should be going on. So you can write certain features of positive and normative economics. For example, if I say government is not giving pensions to the senior citizens, this is the situational study, positive economics. And if I say government should be giving this pensions on time so that they can have a better and pleasant old age system, that is a normative economics. The positive economics ये फीचर्स लिखेंगे बच्चे. फर्स्ट वन, it explains the things as they are. It explains the things as they are. Second, it does not have value judgments. Means it does not give you solutions. रॉबिन्स, जिन्होंने स्केर्सिटी की डेफिनेशन दिया था, he is of the view that economics is positive economics. Clear? Next, coming to the normative one. इनके फीचर्स लिखेंगे. नॉर्मेटिव में व्हाट शुड बी देयर? फर्स्ट, it explains what should be, so it relates to value judgments. People give you suggestions, they give us value judgments that this should be done. It deals with good and bad, right and wrong. And which author has supported this definition of economics? Alfred Marshall. So thereby we can say economics is both positive science and normative science. Clear everyone? Sure? Great. Now the last topic for today's lecture would be the central problems of the economy. The last topic for today's lecture would be the central problems of the economy, which we are going to do right now. You must be knowing, अभी हमने जो रॉबिन्स की डेफिनेशन की थी स्केर्सिटी की, in that definition we did resources are limited, needs are unlimited, plus the limited resources have alternative uses, right? This gave rise to a problem called problem of choice, right? Problem of choice. And this problem of choice in itself gave rise to central problem of the economy. When resources are limited and they have alternative uses, like I have limited amount of money, now I have needs, I want to pay my fees, I want to buy clothes, I want to buy a house. Now which need to be satisfied first? In which proportion? That gives us problems of choice. And this big problem of choice gives us a bigger problem known as central problem of the economy, which is of 4 zones. What to produce, how to produce, three problems, central problems of the economy. What to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. What to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. These are the three central problems of the economy with which this economy is dealing at every point and then at every situation. First is what to produce. What to produce involves whether the resources of producing a good should be diverted towards consumer goods or capital goods. Now what are these? For this, write down. Consumer goods are the one which are used and finished to satisfy the needs. For example, clothes, shoes, etc. They are not used in further production. तो कंज्यूमर गुड्स भाई वो हो गए जो कि एक बार ही इस्तेमाल किए अपने नीड्स पूरा करने के लिए, एंड दे आर डन, लाइक क्लोथ्स, शूज, ट्यूब लाइट्स, बल्ब्स, daily groceries, eatables, all these are part of consumer goods. And on the other hand, we have capital goods. Capital goods are the ones which are used in further production processes. For example, machines. Now the question is, the resources available with me for the nation are limited. Whether I should use those resources to produce consumer goods which are just being used and gone and over, giving me no productivity, or shall I use it in the production of capital goods which, if produced, will help me to produce more. So this is the question mark here, which the nation's economists have to go through all the time. Clear? Next, how to produce. In how to produce, we talk about the technique of production. Whether I should be using capital intensive technique or labor intensive technique. Now what does it mean? Capital intensive means making use of machines, and labor intensive means taking use of labor. Now this totally depends. If your nation is rich, developed, you have more of money and less of supply of labor, you will go with capital intensive techniques. But the nations like India, which is flooded with population and capital amount is less, we will go more with the labor intensive techniques. We will go with the manual works, handy works, hand jobs. We will not go with the machine works. We will not go with the technology. So this is how we have to make a decision. Depending upon the manpower, the decision will be based on which one to take, depending upon the availability of manpower and stock of money, capital. Availability of manpower and stock of capital, a nation decides this. The nations which will have more of money, they'll go with capital intensive techniques. The nations which will have more of labor supply, they'll go with the labor intensive techniques. Clear? Done. Last comes is for whom to produce. Last comes is for whom to produce. In for whom to produce, we talk about whether the government of the nation is working for the rich or it's working for the poor. If the government is focused more on making of luxury cars or making of luxury items, it clearly indicates that the nation's government is working for the rich. They are using the resources of the nation for production of the goods meant for the rich. It will enhance the gap between rich and poor. But if the government of the nation is focusing in manufacturing buses or in manufacturing public health, safety, security, public transport, education, and working more, which is commonly used by the individuals, then it will clearly indicate that the resources of the nation have been diverted for the use for the poor, which will bridge the gap between rich and poor. Clear? For example, if the government wants to uplift the poor or wants to bridge or reduce the gap between rich and poor, it will divert its resources towards production of items or zones meant for general use. For example, public transport, health, education, etc. But if it works in making more of luxury items, it indicates government is working for the rich, the resources of the nation, are used in the articles meant for the rich, thus widening the gap between rich and poor. So in simple terms, bacha, these are the different central problems of the economy: what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. In what to produce, government comes under a dilemma to decide between consumer goods and capital goods. Consumer goods are those which are once used and gone, it has no further utility. And capital goods are those in which, if resources are invested, it will help us to produce more goods in future. So it is a decision which a government has to make. Then in how to produce, it totally depends upon the availability of manpower and the money you have. If you're rich in money, you'll go with the technology and the automatic zones, capital intensive techniques, more of machines. But if you are lacking money and there is a lot of population in your nation, you can go with the labor intensive techniques. And the last one is for whom to produce. In for whom to produce, it comes as किसके लिए बनाए, means for whom the resources must be utilized. Basically, in a society, sections are divided into two, rich and the poor. If the government wants to divest all the resources in the making of luxury items, it clearly indicates they are working for the rich. This will widen the gap for rich and the poor. But if they are working for common elements, common facilities, the facilities which are meant for the common general public, like public transports, buses, cheap trains, cheap availability of material, education quality one with the lesser fees, अगर इन सब पर काम करे, it indicates that they are working for the poor and the gap between rich and poor will be minimized. Clear? So till here we are done with the basics of economics and even the introductory part of your syllabus, that is the chapter first, basics of economics, right? In the next lectures we will be starting with the new chapter concepts, which will be a complete chapter in itself. So we will be starting new concepts later. Till then you can just go through it, revise it, and we will be there available to you with the next lectures soon. Till then, have a very nice day. Good day.